Sand.
Deep hurting.
I wish we could make that joke. I just don't think enough people would know it.
If it makes you laugh, then that's all that matters, right?
Mike, this is our show. We do this for us. Like I said
Yes.
before, if people laugh along with us, that's great, but it's not required.
Okay. I like that.
We're selfish.
Selfish.
Take that, growing audience. Okay, if you're ready to go, let's make some magic.
Pew pew. Okay.
Pew, pew, pew. All right.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Hey kids, welcome to Grumpy Nostalgia, the Second Look Cinema podcast, the show where we go back to the blockbuster new release wall of our memory, grab a copy off the shelf, pop it in the old VCR, and see what time has done to it. I'm Justin, that's Mike.
Za! Oh wait, no, I just shot a coffee cup across the room. Hold on. Okay, we got it.
And we're here to help you navigate all the landmines, or in this case, sandworms, littered down memory lane. So, Mike, we're recording on a weeknight, which is new for us. A school night, as I like to call them.
School night. Yay.
Yeah, it doesn't spark much joy for me, but we got stuck on our scheduling, and I was fighting in the Kumatai this weekend. I think you were on the coast, right, or something like that?
Yes, that's right. I was sweeping the leg over there.
You know what? I'm willing to concede a weeknight because I'm so excited to talk about this movie, Mike. This is Dune, the Denis Villeneuve blockbuster with Jason Momoa.
Yeah, and that guy from the Star Wars. Yeah, that guy. Oscar.
Wait.
Isaac. What?
Wait,
did I watch the wrong movie?
Are we watching the 84 one?
Damn
it.
Oh.
No.
It's a good thing I watched both of them, I guess, huh?
Oh.
For research. It was research purposes only.
Yeah, okay. Well, all right. Well, I mean...
Let me, okay. Hold on. I'm going to furiously scribble a couple of notes here. 84, right? Okay, thanks.
Yeah, 84. Which I think is the year that 80s unofficially kicked off, Mike. I think all the stuff about the 80s really kind of kicked off about this year.
84, yeah.
80 83, not a whole lot was going on. But 84, you had Reagan going to Bush. You had the Ghostbusters. You know, you had a lot of real 80s stuff. Luckily, this one didn't survive as well in terms of the pop culture scheme. But all right, so there's probably a whole segment of sci-fi fans that don't know this movie even exists, Mike, and we're not going to let them get off that easy. So if we've got to go with the accumulated knowledge of having this movie on our transom, so do they. So
exactly, and a little inside baseball. This was one I wanted to do for a while because, like, Dune. After doing the Cape Fear one, I thought, let's do the reverse. Let's watch the original and then see how we think it compared to one we just saw. So,
all right,
kind of the reverse-a-roo of Cape Fear.
Yeah.
How we did that one. So, yeah,
probably not enough justification to revisit this crap, but we're going to go with it, Mike.
No, this is, folks. This will be I want this to be a. At least a 1 out of every 8 or 10 podcasts is where we look at a movie that's just been made, and then we'll analyze the one that it came from. That was within reason. We're not going to go back to like the Stone Age in the 60s and stuff like that.
Okay.
But, as long as it was done in the 70s or 80s, it's fair game for us, right?
All right. Well,
or do we change the name of our channel and call it Hipster Nostalgia? We do Dune 2021 or Blade Runner 2049.
Well, Mike, I'm seeing spinoff already. I love it.
There we go.
All right. Well, I'll put that in the to-do pile. But for now, we're riddled with this. So let's get into this. So this was Dune, released in December 14th of 1984, on a $40 million budget, Mike. So this was a big one. This was supposed to be big. It was directed by David Lynch, who's kind of an auteur, known for making really horrible movies, but gets a free pass because he's avant-garde. He had just finished The Elephant Man, which was actually one of his better films, I think, Mike. But he was hot off the success of that and was scheduled to direct this. It was written by the same David Lynch and adapted from the novel by Frank Herbert, the prolific sci-fi writer who penned several of these novels and then was picked up by his son, who wrote another 400 or so.
Now, for us greenhorns who really don't know the background of the Frank Herbert novels or haven't read them. Is this like a doorstop kind of book that's very thick with information and just
Yeah,
is it an easy read for most
no,
people?
I've read I think 4 of his novels. The first 3 kind of go on the Paul Atreides story arc.
Okay.
They're tough reads. They're like reading ancient Sanskrit. They're very difficult to read. A lot of not a lot of dialogue in them, and a lot of exposition in there, and
Okay.
a lot of prose. And everybody's got 17 different names,
Yeah.
and you have to keep track of that. They're great books. Don't get me wrong. They create their own mythos and mythology, and they
Right.
very much like Tolkien. He kind of created his own genre. And there's an ardent fan base for these things, justifiably so. But they're not something you just pick up and read on an airplane. You don't read these by the pool. These are tough reads, at least. But to that point, I think one of the major faults of this movie was the adaptation of the novel. There's so much source material here,
Mm-hmm.
and there was just lots of things stacked against this one. Primarily, I think David Lynch spent probably 3.5 years writing the script. A lot of time was developing this script. There's a lot to cover here. The studio wanted a 2-hour movie. The De Laurentiis family, because they had such high standards, Mike.
Yes.
Previously, their last output was Flash Gordon. So
Oh wow. Okay,
yeah,
it makes sense now.
yeah.
Tell me
Uh,
that. Please tell me that they did the movie Kroll also, because I kept getting flashbacks to Flash Gordon and pun intended. I kept getting
I don't
flashbacks
know
to
if
Flash Gordon and Kroll, and it seemed like, and nobody probably listening to us remembers Kroll, but anyway, both of those movies I could see in this one, and I was like,
if
De
you were
Laurentiis,
male and alive in the '80s and HBO,
right?
we know what Kroll. We know what Kroll is. Everybody's
That's
seen
true.
Kroll, and we'll cover that
Is it
to our
is it
long-suffering fans. Yeah.
is it as big a red flag for you when you see Dino De Laurentiis' name show up on like the
It
start
means
of a movie?
here comes the crap. Be ready.
Exactly. That's the
So
first thought I have, and I was like, "Uh oh."
yeah. So getting back to Lynch, he turned down Return of the Jedi to do this one.
Oh
Uh,
my.
for some reason, I think what's weirder is not that he turned it down, that he was offered it in the first place by George Lucas, but maybe that's another show. Ridley Scott was the original director, but he left. His brother passed away, and he kind of left the project. So David Lynch kind of
Okay.
came in and took over. The Frank Herbert novel we talked about. Herbert admits that he was really inspired by the story of Lawrence of Arabia, and it's kind of prevalent here. Those themes are kind of the mythology and the setting are kind of indicative of that storyline as well. But that's kind of the loose origins of this story. David Lynch says this was his only real failure as a filmmaker. I would contest that point, but
Yeah,
he
me too.
he rarely talks about this movie. He doesn't want anything to do with it. He's been begged for several DVD special commentaries. He refuses that. He refused to talk about an extended edition, all that kind of thing. So yeah, and it's this is infamous. When this movie was released, just to give you an idea how difficult it was to get made and then produce and promote, theaters had to hand out laminated cheat sheets to the
Oh
audience
wow.
members that had like background information and things so you could follow the plot. So that's probably not a good sign when they have to give you a decoder kit with your
Yeah.
movie ticket when you sit into the movie. But
It's funny. It's funny you mentioned that. I almost talk about modern age. I almost took my cell phone out and took a picture of the when it was going through. Virginia Madsen's doing the exposition at the start of the movie and shows the
yeah,
4 planets. I almost took a
yeah,
picture of it just so I like, okay, that planet was that planet. Okay, we're on this planet, and it would have helped immensely. I could have used that like laminated decoder. It would have helped a lot.
I've read these books, and that's the last time I'm going to mention that, Mike. So if I make any more references to well, in the book they do this, or in the book do that, you have
Okay.
my permission to use the behavior modification shock. Just all right. So this thing, yeah, there's some folklore and mythology to this movie. I mean, we've kind of tipped our hand to where we think the movie really stands in our hearts, but there's some endearing qualities to it, and I think those deserve to be looked at. So let's start with the cast, Mike. Lead us through this elaborate cast.
This is the most eclectic cast that we've ever had in a movie. I think.
Yeah,
I'm not never sure how to pronounce his last name. Is it McLaughlin?
that's right. Just like the
Kyle
group.
McLaughlin.
Just like the
Okay.
group, Mike. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Also, he just doesn't have a G in it. He's. I guess this was his first movie, but
Yeah.
his career never took off. I don't know if it was this movie's fault or what, but maybe his choice of movies like Showgirls probably let him down, or
Well, he
playing.
picks like eccentric pieces.
Yeah, Of course, he had to do Twin Peaks. I imagine he's in a couple other David Lynch movies, but
Yeah,
that was I think most people would know him for that, or maybe being Ray
right.
Manzarek in the Doors movie. But it's just yeah, it's eccentric is a good way to put it. But
Yeah,
as far as the lead roles, he really don't see him too much else. Maybe it's a couple of movies, TV shows here and there.
right.
And then you have a lot of people who are known for one thing after that. You have Jürgen Prochnow, who's his dad in this movie, who's the Duke,
Yep.
German actor, and he was great in Das Boot. That's
Great movie. Yeah.
really only thing I know him from, and fantastic. Dean Stockwell, who most people would know him from Quantum Leap. I mean, the
Yeah.
crazy scientist guy, but he's the doctor in this movie, and then he's also with Patrick Stewart. Sir Patrick Stewart, who this is pre Jean-Luc Picard days. So
Yeah.
this is before he goes and becomes a captain on a starship. But yeah, it's apt. He's in a science fiction movie that's
Yeah.
a little bit better than Life Force. Who I don't know if you saw that movie. Ugh. Don't get me started. They're kind of they're the crew. They'd be most of the guys from the is it Kalanda? What's the name of the green planet in this movie? Caladan. Thank you.
Yeah.
I keep wanting to say Caladium because they're like green houseplants. And then you have the side the Fremen, who are the natives that live on the the sun planet, the sand planet,
Arrakis, Mike. Wow, this is going to be a long one if you're having this.
This is tough. Already. Yeah, well, and I haven't gotten to what they changed Paul's name into because Paul is not Paul anymore.
That's an inside joke that we're not going to explain. But that's a good one, Mike. Thank you.
The Freeman are Sean Young, who's the femme fatale in this movie that Paul has visions about. She's is one of the she's the this is post Blade Runner days. So the native girl in quotes. You have Max von Sydow, who makes a post Flash Gordon appearance. It was good in this movie.
He's good in everything. Let's be honest. That guy's never been bad.
When I'm not getting him confused with Maximilian Schell, he's good. Jose Ferrer makes a really good hammy appearance as the Emperor, and he's the dad of Miguel Ferrer, who was in Total Recall. Not Total Recall, RoboCop.
And George Clooney's half brother.
That's right. And Rosemary Clooney's ex-husband.
Yeah.
But we won't go into that. So then you have the bad guys who Harkonnen. I do remember the House of Harkonnen. And you had the weird Baron guy who I knew he's always a creepy bad guy. I remember him in Ragtime and Cat's Eye, a Stephen King movie where he's like
the mobster who made the tennis pro walk around the building, right?
And he cut off his wife's head.
Great. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And
he went subtle for this role too.
Yes, he did the Violet from Willy Wonka role.
He's like the Max Cady of CB Prime.
And then his right hand man, played by Brad Dourif, who every damn movie this guy in, he's a creep or a psycho. He started off with One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest as a side character in that, and then you see him in Lord of the Rings as Wormtongue.
Kind of the same character here.
And then I think he's the voice of Chucky in all the Chucky movies. And
he is. Yeah.
He is a creepy son of a bitch. And,
he's probably a fun guy to hang around.
Probably. Yeah, probably in real life. I wouldn't mind having a beer with that guy. And then you have the two nephews of the Baron, played by Paul Smith, who I knew from being Bluto from Popeye. I was like, I knew this guy. And it took me a minute. Yeah. He's always a big goon guy. And then
he was the horrible prison guard in Midnight Express too. Remember that?
Oh, okay. So he was a Turkish guy.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Thought he was
a bastard. Yeah.
And his brother, I guess is his brother, but the other nephew was played by Sting, who.
That's correct. Yeah.
Some kids may not know that Sting was in a little band called The Police.
Yeah.
It got really big the year before this came out. And he was ripped for this role, wasn't he? He was
he was
cut like a knife, man. He was rippled.
He was good, yeah. So Thank you, Mike, for that cast. Just a few other notes. Patrick Stewart was one of his early roles, as you mentioned, and he met Sting on the shoot and didn't know who he was. And he introduced himself. And he says, "Do you play music or something?" He goes, "Yeah." And he went and told everybody that he met someone that played in a police band. So he didn't even know. That's a true story.
That's really good.
Sting says about 90 words in this movie, and that's about it.
He does a lot of leering and prancing. I noticed.
Yeah, he's just a great role, and we're going to get more on that as we kind of progress in the podcast. The doomed kind of shoot of this. There were 1,700 crew members on this thing.
Wow.
They built 80 sets over 16 sound stages. The production took 3.5 years. It ballooned to $45 million, which in '84 is, can be represented by about $120 million in today's economy. So there's 20,000 extras hired for this movie, Mike. 20,000.
Oh, wow. And how many of those damn little toxic suits do they have to get?
Well, we'll get to that.
Okay.
But, this movie is not, what's the word? Good, but there are some things that you can take away from it, and it's got its own kind of unique landscape on early sci-fi. And so without, ripping on it too much, I'm from the Midwest. It's hard for me to be really mean to anything, but I'll do my best for this one, Mike.
Oh,
so
good.
Let's talk about 1984. This came out. You might remember a few things in 1984, Mike. The Summer Olympics was held in Los Angeles, and McDonald's had the
yes.
When the U.S. wins, you win promo.
I want a lot of stuff with that. Yeah, that was
well.
Great.
They unfortunately they did this before they got news that the Russians would boycott this one in retaliation for the U.S. boycotting their Summer Olympics in 1980. So without the competition of the Russians, the U.S. kind of ran roughshod over the games and really caused millions and millions of losses for McDonald's, which was later kind of documented in The Simpsons with the Krusty Burgers. Remember when?
Yeah, that's right.
Krusty the Clown lost. He said he would personally spit in every third burger, and Homer said he likes those odds. Some of the songs on the radio, Mike, I know you appreciate this. "Wake Me Up Before You Go was a big hit around the time. The song "Out of Touch" by Hall & Oates.
Stupid video.
And Madonna was like a virgin during this time. So those were the three big songs during 1984. This movie got released. This was a big release weekend, Mike. This got released the same time as The Cotton Club, the Francis Ford Coppola, Richard Gere.
That was another stinker, wasn't it? Yeah,
another stinker. 1984, the science fiction movie with John Hurt. Again, didn't do very well. Passage to India came out the same weekend.
Yeah. Still haven't seen that one.
Yeah, me either. The movie Starman came out.
I like that one.
The same weekend as this as well.
And
then the cream of the crop for me that released on this weekend was the movie Runaway, which is by far the best Gene Simmons movie ever.
Oh, is it Gene? Yeah.
He plays the villain.
Oh.
I believe, I'm not mistaken, I think he kills Kirstie Alley in this movie.
No. How dare he? Gene Simmons.
R.I.P. Christie. Yeah.
Oh, wow. This is okay. Is this is this foreshadowing, Justin? Are you foreshadowing?
No.
Okay.
I want to say Gene Simmons spared us his tongue in this movie. I think it's the only media appearance where you don't see Gene Simmons' tongue.
He went in his kiss makeup. What is wrong with him?
But he looks much more scary in his without the kiss makeup.
Agreed.
He's a big creep in this movie. But that's like that's like 6 movies released on this weekend, and this was basically the Christmas release crop. And I'm leaving out Breaking Two Electric Boogaloo, which came out 2 days later, Mike, but that had its own place in history as well. When we were seeing this movie, we were also in the mall shopping for Cabbage Patch Kids. That was the big Christmas toy that year. And the movie tickets were $2.50.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So at $2.50, they would have to sell a lot of tickets to make back that $45 million, and they sadly did not.
You mean all the police fans that come running out to see Sting? Come on.
We'll get into some of the shortfalls of this movie, but let's just do a quick overview of the plot, if you want to call it that, Mike. So I'm going to do exactly what the movie does. I'm just going to.
Are you going to Virginia Madsen it and just stand in front of a green screen and just go?
I'm just going to quickly summarize 800 pages worth of novel in about 5 minutes. So we're in the theater, Mike. $5 got us 2 tickets.
Nice.
Got our malted milk balls and our dollar Pepsi. You ready to go?
Mike and Ike's.
Hit the button, Mike. So as Mike mentioned, the opening shot is Virginia Madsen, a very young Virginia Madsen, one of her first films. She plays Prince Irulan, who's the princess of the galaxy, but we don't know that and we don't care. It's the movie set in the year 10,191.
I don't got that going for us.
Yeah.
Why do they keep fading in and out with her? Like it's like, oh wait, one more thing. I got. It's like, then she disappears. Then she keeps talking.
Yeah, she literally says, "I forgot to tell you something." But she kind of gives an overview of the political intrigue and the scope of the galaxy and what's going on here. And it's essentially that the universe is run by something called the Space Guild, Mike, and they need this. Which to me looks like it's just a big like turnip thing that's in.
Oh yeah,
this orange big alien cut. That's the best they could do for an alien, but we'll get to that in a minute.
The orange gas coming out of his ass or whatever that was.
Yeah, but the premise is that the Space Guild's here, and there's a substance called the spice, which only can be mined on the melange, and it can only be found in the sands of this planet called Arrakis, which is also called Dune, which is the titular planet of the movie. There's an emperor called Shaddam IV, who's her father, and he's
no relation to Saddam.
Not Saddam, but Shaddam IV.
Thank you. Okay.
And so as it turns out, this evil group called the Harkonnens, or the Harkonnens in this movie, they currently have stewardship over the planet, and they're just a bunch of ginger goons, Mike.
They're very sweaty, very sweaty guys.
Very sweaty.
Pus-filled.
Yeah. And there's this other powerful house in the galaxy called the Atreides, and that's where our main character comes from, Paul Atreides, and his father Duke Leto. And they're like the good guys, and they're growing popularity within the universe. And the Emperor gets essentially kind of scared off by his growing popularity and feels that he ultimately could become a threat to his power. So he decides to kick the Harkonnens out of the mining operation and give that to the Atreides, knowing full well that will create some animosity between the Harkonnens, which is this is the most expensive substance in the universe. They get it ripped out from under them. The logical thing there is that they will get angry and start to fight the Atreides. That's exactly what they do. He cuts a backdoor deal with the Harkonnens, where the Harkonnens agree to, once the Atreides take over the planet, they will take it back forcefully with the assistance of the Emperor. So,
does the Baron float around like he's had fizzy lifting drinks in the book too, or is he more like the new? Is he more like I guess a more serious-minded character? I mean, in this movie, he's
a little more subtle. Okay. He's a little more like the later version of Dune. We're talking about the Baron Harkonnen, who is the leader of the planet, and he's got two nephews, Raban and Fade, who's played by the tantric sex expert Sting,
that's right,
and part-time musician. But they're horrible bastards, and they're just bad guys, Mike. Yeah. They're brutal, and that their brutality is known throughout the universe, and they're just they're not good guys. So we kind of cut to a young Kyle MacLachlan. He plays Paul Atreides. He's this young little wonderkind who's had years of political training, and he's grooming to be the next leader of the House Atreides. But he has two kind of heritages. One is this, Mike. The other one is his mother, the Lady Jessica.
Yes,
she's a member of these witches. They call them the Bene Gesserit witches.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, I was almost going to say the Boni Gratis.
They're kind of like a religious sect that has supported various political organizations through the course of history. And these, but they're essentially witches that can,
so she's able to
manipulate people, and
right. So she's able to make herself have a boy instead of a girl. Is that what's implied?
No. They spent generations and generations with selective breeding to try to breed the perfect being, which they call the Kwisatz Haderach.
Okay.
And we're already getting way too nerdy here. Okay. But the idea is that
line threw me off. Like when Virginia Madsen does her little voiceover and says she disobeyed and had a boy. It's like,
Yeah.
wait, huh?
Yeah, they were only supposed to breed certain sexes based on the genetic
Okay,
manipulation over years and years. The idea here is they want to develop it's a very messianic type story where they want to develop a Messiah
gotcha.
through years and years of genetic manipulation. But it's presumed, at least, that Paul might be this particular being. So it kind of opens up with him getting ready to go and move the family to Arrakis, and all the Atreides know that it's a trap, right? But they do it anyway. Before they leave, the night before they leave, one of the Bene Gesserit leader, the Reverend Mother, comes and shows up to interview Paul to see if he's one of the he's in fact one of the chosen ones, and she does the old put your hand in the box thing,
Yeah,
Mike, the
sounds
Gom Jabbar, they
very,
call it. Yeah.
very Flash Gordon-y, huh? Instead of a tree,
Yeah,
they put it in a box. Yeah.
but she puts him under this test to see if he has instincts or he can rise above his animal instinct and avoid the pain, and he sort of passes.
Mm-hmm.
But they kind of leave that out for a while. So anyway, so we talk about the Harkonnens. So they cut to him, and we see the Baron, who's this giant obese guy with really bad skin, a bit of a weight problem, Mike.
A little bit.
And his two nephews, Fade and Raban, and they're kind of. There's a really fun scene here where they're planning their attack on the new residents of Arrakis, and there's a lot of weird, grotesque stuff here in this scene.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hints at homoeroticism in here too, Mike.
Yeah,
You
that
noticed all
that was interesting. How he
Yeah,
was lustfully eyeing the young man who was putting purple tulips out. It's
yeah.
like, this is weird.
So I was kind of in on the movie. I remember a 15-year-old Justin watching this and thinking it was pretty cool. And to the untrained eye, if you're watching this movie up to this point, everything so far had seemed kind of relevant. I mean, okay, this kind of passes for sci-fi, but when he got into this scene here, the movie kind of loses its grasp on reality. Just you can feel
this the
things.
moment for you? Okay.
It starts to slip away into high camp
Yeah.
really quickly after this. So the Atreides finally establish themselves on Arrakis, and they sweep for bugs, and they find a lot of suicide traps and things like that. The first thing the Duke wants to do is take a look at the mining operation, so he insists that they take him out there. And some of the indigenous people, led by one of the Fremen, played by Max von Sydow, take him out into the wild and kind of show him the process. They go to a mining camp and watch how the spice is extracted. And to do that, they get dressed up in what they call still suits, Mike. I think the surface temperature of this planet is about 170 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's a little warm outside. The forecast calls for high temperatures and
clear
lots
skies,
of sunshine, mostly sunny. The highs in the 170s. But they wear these. The indigenous people wear these things called still suits, Mike, where it's kind of like this jumpsuit that kind of captures all your body's moisture. And what I liked here most is that they make special point out that the urine and feces are processed in the thigh pads, Mike.
That's right.
So anyway, all the sweat and the evaporation that you get, it kind of gets filtered through this suit, and they look snappy to boot. So that's but they end up they take one of their planes out to look at the mining operation, and they essentially drop like a mining plant on top of the sand. And then they, I guess one of the catches of having this rich substance on the planet is it's guarded by these things called worms, the sandworms, Mike, which are about a mile long, and they're drawn by vibration. And so what they have to do is when they start mining, they only got a certain amount of time before the worms come, and then a hovercraft comes and picks up the entire building and then carries them off to safety. Well, of course, during the Leto and Paul Atreides' first visit, that doesn't happen. They get broken down, and Leto lands on the planet and rescues all the guys, and he wins a lot of points because he puts people's lives over the spice, and that gains us some points with the locals. So yeah,
Max von Sydow approves and nods his head and has a little thought. I kind of like this, Duke.
Yeah, and then Paul's the same way, and everybody can kind of tell that there's something about Paul that the local have. They have a prophecy about another prophecy, Mike.
Yes.
About a chosen one coming, and they all see indications of that with Paul. Anybody still there?
I'm not. I tell you what, I'm not going to interrupt anymore. I'll let you get through all this.
No, please do. I don't want to go. I don't want to talk that much about this. But anyway, long story long. Paul keeps having these visions of this girl of his dreams, this girl named Chani. But unfortunately, the Harkonnen come because they enter through a back door. This Dean Stockwell, is it Dean Stockwell?
Yeah.
Says, yeah. He plays this traitorous doctor who lets him in through the back door, lets the shields down, and the Harkonnens come and kind of kill the Duke and take Paul captive and his mother. And to avoid any kind of political repercussions, they take Paul out into the middle of the sand and kind of dump him and his mother out. So they don't actually kill them, but they let the desert take them. But of course, Paul uses his inherent weird voice that he inherited from his mother and kills the guys and is stranded on the desert. And he finds an encampment of the local indigenous people, and they take him in. And then it's just a series of the prophecy has been fulfilled stuff, right, Mike? So Mike, he gets indoctrinated into the local tribe. And all the while, this tribe is kind of caching all this water. There's water caches all through the planet. They're ultimately trying to terraform Arrakis into a livable planet. And he vows revenge for his father's death. Have we hit enough tropes yet, Mike?
Yeah.
But he ends up learning the ways of the Fremen, and they use some desert warfare to go back and stop spice production altogether and force the Emperor's hand. So the Emperor ends up coming back. Essentially, they kind of killed the economy. So the Emperor is forced to come back on the planet, and that's just what Paul wants. And he's created this army of Fremens and
like a pew pew and cha cha,
pew pew pew, cha cha cha. So he ends up kind of killing all the bad guys, and at the end, he wrangles control of the planet.
Don't forget, you forgot the part where he drinks the waters of life.
No, I did forget about that. I just chose not to talk about it. We'll be here for 17 days talking about this.
That's where he becomes like the ultimate Pokemon or whatever. Yeah. Like he becomes
the Pokemon. I like that. Yeah.
He's able to he's at max power after that, and he can like control the sand. That's kind of cool. Like he can control all the sandworms, and they can ride them like like horses almost.
Right. So during his rise to power, his mother, who's still alive, becomes the Reverend Mother of the Fremen tribe. And prior to that, she got pregnant, and she drinks the water of life to become the Reverend Mother. The water of life is essentially the water they extract from the worms that gives all these people their powers. So this young girl, his young sister Alia, is born during the interim here, played by Alicia Witt, who became a star of a lot of Hallmark movies, Mike. At the end, all the Harkonnen are killed except for Sting, the evil Fade. And there's this kind of iconic scene at the end where there's this one final knife fight where Fade walks out of the room and he takes his blade, and they have this great fight, and he utters the epic line, "I will kill him!"
I will kill him.
But he doesn't. He just gets killed. But at the end, Alia kind of kills the Baron. The Baron kind of flies comically green screened, spinning around, and flies into a worm. And the Atreides is taking over Arrakis, and there you go. Yikes!
And it rains. It
rains. Yeah. At the end, they convert the atmosphere, and which was kind of ironic because the one thing that could kill the worms was water. So the Fremen eventually just kind of flooded out the planet.
Was the I'm sure it's explained in the book, but is the spice actually in the sand? Is it just mixed in with all the sand, so they have to just suck the sand?
Yeah.
Okay.
They've got to extract it from the sand.
Okay.
So the spice has the ability to alter consciousness and transfer genetic material, but it also allows the guild to fold space. It allows interplanetary travel.
That's what that orange thing was doing. It was a really interesting, I'm going to say interesting in quotes, how they depicted space travel, when they go from Caladan to arachnophobia. Right. And
close enough.
I guess it's the orange guild guy.
Yeah.
Controls everything. He basically folds time and space, which is it's really, I mean,
some heavy concepts. It's pretty cool.
think about how hard that would be to film. I mean, it's
Yeah,
unfilmable almost. I forgot how they did it in the newer one, but
kind of the same way. They had like
okay,
the relay stations, but they didn't have the special effects. I mean, CGI was 10, 12 years away, so all the special effects in this movie are either practical, green screen, or like
oh, it's yeah,
miniature stuff. So anything that requires a special effects shot in this movie is not really that good, and not
no,
even like good for the time. It was just a lot of
it was bad.
yeah,
It was Dino De Laurentiis, approved.
yeah.
It
But by
was
the same token, I mean, if you look at the art direction and if you look at the sets and the
costumes are
costumes, and
great. Yeah,
I mean, this movie is a standalone, like almost unique instance of like amazing set design.
yeah,
Uh, just
it
incredible
was.
sets and scenery.
It's just some of the special effects. Just watching it, and with
Yeah,
2023 eyes, you
yeah,
really get taken out of it. I hate that, but that's just the way it is. I
yeah.
mean, the little Minecrafty looking invisible shields they were trying to show when they were having like hand to hand battles. It looked really,
Like Minecraft gear.
yeah, it was really poor. Like I said,
Yeah,
it's almost laughable at this point when you watch it now. And even when they're showing the sandworms and how they're like, trying to climb on top of them, and some of the boulders, and even when some of when they're harkening or
yeah.
taking over the Atreides, and some of the guys fall down, you can actually see them bounce when they hit the ground. And it's like,
Yeah,
okay, and
yeah.
it takes you. You, like I said, I
It
agree.
takes you out of it. Yeah,
The costumes
yeah,
and the set designs, even some of the real novel ways they did some of the it's little details like the lighting, like even the light modules and stuff they had, and the
yeah,
spaceship
yeah,
designs were really inventive. And for that, it was really done well.
yeah, yeah. That's I don't think I think that the odds were really stacked to get this movie. I think if they were allowed to do the 4 hour version of this movie, and they had carte
Yeah,
blanche on I don't think I think the way that they took this movie was too niche. It doesn't have like really any kind of crossover appeal. To like this movie, you have to be a real hardcore nerd, like
yeah,
I was. I chose to read these books as opposed to like girls or sports. so so I kind of appreciate this on a grassroots level when I saw
yeah.
it the first time, but it's I could see why people could not stand this movie.
I liked it to a point where
Yeah,
if there was only the first hour or so of it, I was like, okay, this is pretty good. The
yeah.
second hour of this, excuse the
Well,
pun, but
that's
it went at warp speed. I know they had to
yeah,
hit all the marks and say, okay, we get to this.
right.
It was all of a sudden like boom, 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 and
Yeah,
it was on. It was. I don't. The pacing of it is just terrible.
yeah. So
The
let's talk about that since we're here. So, as far as the Grumpy meter goes, I think when I first saw this, I think around 1985, I remember seeing this in like seventh grade, seeing the trailer for this and thinking this was going to be an amazing movie. And
yeah,
I didn't really get a chance to see this in the theater, but I did see it on HBO around 1986 or so. And I loved it. I thought it was great. I probably gave it a 4 out of 5. And I didn't know any better, and I read the first book and kind of comprehended it. But I mean, this was giant worms and lasers and pew pew pews and cool science fictiony stuff. Younger Justin, when I seen this the first time and being a sci-fi fan, I was like, hey, this is great, because there wasn't a whole lot of stuff like that back then. But I watched it, on Amazon on my computer, and oh boy, it does not. It doesn't hold up too well.
yeah,
It was just too weird for the subject matter.
right.
The dialogue, it was really weird. The special effects we kind of talked about, but again,
Hmm.
the art direction and set design is better than
Yeah,
I think better than the remake
I do
that came
too.
out.
Yeah,
It just looks so much better if you just marry those two together. But
yeah,
I probably just give it a 2 out of 5 on my second view, Mike, because I've seen what I think seeing the new movie and kind of cross referencing against this, it's probably apples and oranges, but just there's no reason to see this now. You know what I mean?
yeah.
uh,
I
yeah.
have to agree. I
What about you, Mike?
uh, this was my first seeing of it. This was, like I said, I was kind of doing this in reverse. I saw the new movie last year, and I want to see what the original looked like. Well, and
There you go.
it was I've seen a couple David Lynch movies, and they're frustrating for me to watch. Uh,
Yeah,
Blue Velvet and Twin Peaks, just they're his like in this movie, any scenes that involve the prophecy or his visions or the dreams,
Yeah.
well done. I mean, they were incredible. They just suck you in, even with the Toto and the Brian Eno music playing in the background. It was those were the best parts of the movie for me. As far as just the narrative and story events, for anyone to watch this and hadn't read the book, it was so muddled. And
Yeah, you're lost. You're
that's the
lost.
thing
Yeah.
about a Lynch movie is they get frustrating to watch just because they don't follow a proper storyline to me.
Yeah, he doesn't really do any kind of traditional linear storytelling.
Right.
He does a lot of avant-garde, weird for the sake of being weird stuff, and
Yeah.
for this kind of subject matter, it's just the wrong fit. I mean,
Yeah.
you need a meticulous, detail-oriented guy to do these things that has a strict narrative because this movie,
Yeah.
the plot is so huge and so complex. It's essentially it's as complex as like Game of Thrones or anything like that. There's
Oh
political,
yeah.
geopolitical stuff in here, and there's religious overtones, and so this is
It's
basically a
too.
big religious war.
Yeah.
And you got the religious overtones with the Messiah stuff, and you can't put that into a guy that made like Eraserhead.
Exactly.
It doesn't work.
No, and it's like I say, there was you could there just glimmers of lights in the movie about just you can tell that some of them when they actually mention the universe from the book as far as
Yeah,
folding space time and the spice must flow narrative
yeah,
those are all like I said very interesting points to work with, but he kind of
uh-huh.
goes off on more visual dreamy aspects of it, which
Yep,
that's Lynch and that's what you're supposed to get with him, and I
yep.
understand that those are good, but they don't belong in this movie. And
No, they
he wasted valuable screen time with some of this when maybe we don't know, maybe he wanted to do two movies and have it broken into two, but
yeah,
that's where the newer version has it all over this one as far as being able to
right.
at least
I mean,
explain themselves a little bit better, and
yeah. So go ahead.
oh,
Go
I
ahead.
was going to say this movie possibly had the worst ending credits I've ever seen in a movie. the little
Yeah.
the little poses, and I was like, oh my god, is
Oh,
this for real? Uh,
yeah. It was an interesting take on the end credits.
I
That's for
did,
sure.
and that was like so opposite of Lynch. I thought, but
Yeah.
uh,
Well, like he took his name off this movie. It ultimately became an Alan Smithy movie, Mike.
yeah,
Well, let's get to awards and accolades since we're here. Thank you, Mike. This had a $6 million opening, which was the first time a David Lynch movie made any real money. It made $30 million domestically, and about $50,000 more that worldwide. So it didn't have a
wow,
worldwide release. Yeah, not big. And as we mentioned, it cost $45 million and to lose 30. So it didn't cover its cost. That doesn't include marketing like it does now. So it was a real tanker. uh, it did get an Oscar nomination for sound. It did win the Stinker Award, Mike.
good,
It's with the one winner. It did win the Stinker Award, which is no longer there. There's a couple of versions of this movie. There's an extended version that has like another hour and a half worth of scenes.
oh wow,
That Lynch never really put in the final film. And there's a made for TV version of this movie as well it's kind of cut into two separate 2 hour episodes. But some scenes are not included in each one, so it's weird.
huh,
The one we ended up probably I watched the one on Amazon I think was just a theatrical release,
yeah,
just a basic one. So
that's why I watched.
but it did spawn a couple remakes. The BBC did a miniseries, Dune, which was a little bit more well received, not too bad. And they also did a sequel called Children of Dune, which is the next book. It was remade, as we talked about, in 2021 by Denis Villeneuve to some fanfare. It did well enough to merit a sequel. But as we talked about before, that movie ends about halfway through the first book. So there's it's probably better served for like a Amazon 5 series,
All
5 season 10 series thing. There's just so much. It's just a big universe to tackle. But I'm curious to see what the next one will bring because, as you recall, in the first movie, there's no Fade, there's no Emperor, there's no Princess.
yeah,
So I think those will all be introduced in the part two of the newer film. But that did exceptionally well. There's also a neat little documentary called Jodorowsky's Dune, who tried to get this made back in the 70s, and it was this really gonzo interpretation of it. He had Salvador Dali did some of the
Okay.
concept art for it. Mick Jagger was supposed to be in it. Orson Welles was supposed to be in it. The Beatles were supposed to do the soundtrack. It really was a precursor for a lot of the stuff that Lucas did. Some of their concept drawings and concept art is just amazing. So check out that movie. That's way better than this movie. It's a great documentary. You can check that out. You can find it on Amazon. It's a great movie. It did not do well, Mike, and it just kind of got left in the dust and
In the sand, so to speak.
yeah, in the sand. Thank you. That's where I should have said in the first place. That's a good line. But what it did give us, what me and Mike really took away from this movie is there's a neat element in movies where they, on occasion, you'll get a rock star. That they kind of plant into a movie, and Sting's presence here is always what most people remember. And we thought it'd be funny for this week's segment of "You Just Made the List, Pal." We thought it'd be funny to kind of go back in film history and look at other instances where we noticed rock stars getting planted in a movie as either actors or cameos. But we want to pick. I think let's pick three, Mike. Let's pick three unusual instances where our favorite examples of rock stars getting to act in movies. So why don't you go first?
Well, some guidelines for my list. No Elvis movies. I could give you Harem Scarum, Clam Bake, Kid Galahad. I'm not going to do that.
Those aren't really movies, really.
I'm kind of a movie loaf.
In an academic sense, I guess.
Yeah,
but, you know.
And
let's
the singer should be more known for acting than for being in a rock band. I.e. Jared Leto, who 30 Seconds to Mars fame, or
that doesn't count.
Keanu Reeves and Dog Star. See, that doesn't count either. Also, for me at least, these are movies where they don't play any instruments or sing. So you can't have them.
I'm with you there. Yeah,
you can't have Mariah Carey and Glitter, or Mickey Gilly and Urban Cowboy kind of thing, or Jeff Healey in Roadhouse.
Yeah,
some of my face. But anyway,
okay.
And I actually picked ones I didn't want to see. So you may have good ones, and I have bad ones.
Yeah, I went a little dark with mine too. That's fine.
And the first three I thought of were, Anthony Kiedis in Point Break, Tom Petty in Waterworld, and Jimmy Buffett in Congo. But I want to go a little deeper in that. So
all featured on previous episodes of Grumpy Nostalgia.
So my first one will be a movie called Free Jack, which stars a little friend of ours, Mick Jagger. I mean, it's a sci-fi movie. It's a great concept. I imagine when they were shopping this, they were able to get Anthony Hopkins in the movie, and some Rene Russo, I believe's in it.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, Amelia Estevez is in this movie too as the star, and it's about people who get their bodies snatched in the future or in the past, so they brought to the future to be put in the organs can be harvested for someone who's old. And Mick Jagger is the guy. It's kind of the villainous character who goes in, and finds Amelia Estevez after a car wreck and tries to take him into the future. And it's such a hammy role. I think Mick Jagger's more of a victim of circumstance just because it's such a bad movie, But he stands out, kind of like Sting in Dune. He just stands out as being in this movie. Yeah. And unfortunately, it wasn't a performance like he was in the movie performance. It wasn't quite that good. So thumbs down.
Oh, that's a great one. I never thought of that one. That's superb. My first one it's the only instance where I'm going to break the rules a little bit. This is the only instance where the guy plays himself, but I want to call out Alice Cooper.
Oh,
in Wayne's World. Which is essentially a glorified cameo, but Alice Cooper is so cool. I don't care. Give him his due. I finally got a chance to see Alice Cooper a couple of years ago, and it was the most amazing rock show I've seen in a long time. But he plays himself. Wayne and Garth meet him backstage, and what I like best about this scene is he plays it off like he's just a normal guy. He's not a rock star, and the entire scene is about Alice Cooper explaining the origins of the Milwaukee Indians.
Oh yeah,
and Wayne and Garth are just totally impressed by that. But Alice Cooper had played that role to a T, and he was also King Herod in Jesus Christ Superstar on Broadway, but that's another thing about we'll skip that. But great role. But Alice Cooper in Wayne's World was phenomenal, and that's my first one and my cheapest of all of them.
Nice.
I'll get better as we go along. So
okay.
All right, what's next, Mike?
I have as my number two. Boy, this movie was number two. Caveman, and
Ringo.
there you go, Ringo Starr. And again, probably another victim of circumstance. Although he is really a bad actor in this. This is I barely even remember this movie. It had his wife in it, Barbara Bach, and I want to say Dennis Quaid, but
John Matuszak.
oh, I think
Oakland
you're
Raiders.
right. Oh my god! But
Oh,
it's
wow.
again, it's this one's probably worse than Free Jack because it's a bad comedy and it falls so flat. I know it just got bombed at the box office, and
There's no dialogue in that movie.
no, he's the takeaway from the movie though. He's so freaking hamming it up and goofy and miming comedy. It's just it doesn't work. I'm sorry.
But Barbara was really good.
Yes,
There was two things I liked about her as a young teenage boy.
two things.
Yeah.
Okay, there's your number two.
That number two, indeed, Mike. My next pick is Rihanna.
Oh yeah, good one.
In the movie Battleship, which I don't know what year that came out, but not too long ago.
No.
Rihanna, I couldn't identify a Rihanna song if I heard one. She's a very attractive lady. I'll give her that. For some reason, she's popular. I remember some of the ad campaign for Battleship was heavily focused on Rihanna starring in this. So I did a little math on Rihanna's performance here, Mike. I hate the fact that we pigeonholed ourselves into retro movies because I would love to talk about Battleship for an hour. Maybe we can break out of our shell like
I think we
mentioned
can.
earlier.
Yeah, who cares? We can do
Hipster
it.
nostalgia. Maybe this will be target
Yep.
number one. Let's talk about Rihanna's quote, air quote, performance. She has 60 lines of dialogue in this movie, right, Mike?
Oh wow!
Uh,
I imagine they're less than a few words.
Yeah,
perhaps?
let me give you some metrics. So those 60 lines of dialogue, 12 of them, she says the word ah. A-A-H-H-H apostrophe
Oh, my.
exclamation point. Most of her lines are three words or less. Her longest line here, Mike, is 12 words.
Wow!
But that got Rihanna into the IMDb database. And I couldn't tell you her character, but she was in there just to look cute, which she does, and be sassy. But that was my second one. That would be Rihanna in Battleship. Mike.
Excellent. I want to honorable mention. I'm going to do a few good ones. I've just put down
Okay,
here.
yeah, I got a little list here too. Yeah.
Okay. Levon Helm in The Right Stuff. Levon Helm was a drummer and one of the lead singers of the band, and he appears in The Right Stuff as Chuck Yeager's kind of wingman and as a ground crew guy, and he does some of the voiceover for the movie and makes it. I mean, that Arkansas accent's great, and I loved him in that. Flea, bassist for Red Hot Chili Peppers, appears in The Big Lebowski as a German nihilist and one of the guys who threatens to cut off his Johnson. So big props to Flea. And Keith Richards, he's in one of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. I'm going to guess the second one. Perfect casting as a pirate, no doubt. And that leads to my number one worst rock performer in movies. And this is a catch-all. It's not one particular movie, but it's just this guy that I don't like. I don't like his music, and I don't like his jerk-off name. I don't like his jerk-off roles. But his name is Tom Waits. And
oh no,
Mr. Gravelly Voice himself. I can't. I hear one of his songs come on the radio, and I'm like, I can't do it. And every movie role he's in, which I guess somebody thinks he's really good at what he does on film. He's either a bum or drunk or some kind of creepy guy, and I guess that kind of
a drunk bum.
There you go. The casting kind of fits most likely, but yeah, I'm not a big fan. Let's just put it that way.
All right. Well, hey Mike, can you lend me a stick of Beemans?
Thank you.
All right. Well, that's a good one, Mike. I'm going to round up my list with my number one pick, and that is Marvin Lee Ade, better known to his friends as Meatloaf.
Oh, wow. Yes.
His performance as Big Bob in the 1999 Fight Club.
Yeah.
You might remember he was hormonally imbalanced to the point where he had large pendulous breasts. And our main character met him at a support group, and he's a hugger, Mike.
He is.
But Bob's transformation is pivotal in that movie, and his unfortunate death in that movie really makes you feel sad, and it really kind of triggers the events of the third act in that great movie, which we'll eventually cover as well. Meatloaf as Big Bob was one of my favorite rock star performances. So
rest in peace.
I had a rest in peace, Meatloaf. I had a couple of honorable mentions. Dolly Parton in 9 to 5 was fantastic. Um, and I also liked Jack White playing Elvis in Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story.
Okay.
Great, he
Yeah.
played a great Elvis there. But wow, so okay, well that was fun, Mike. It wasn't a great movie, but these are a lot more fun to do, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
they are. Oh
Yeah,
my gosh.
it's a lot more fun to talk about the bad ones than the good ones. But and this one served its purpose. But it's still worth viewing if you're a sci-fi fan. You kind of want to see some embryonic stages of sci-fi and how the story came to be, and it's really cool to look at. It just really kind of, it doesn't really hold up, Mike. Let's be honest. So,
No.
but it was still fun to watch, and we treat these movies with the reverence they deserve, whether they're good or bad, and we remind everybody that these are just our opinions of these movies. They don't mean anything other than two grumpy old guys' opinions. But that's gonna wrap it up. So you can catch me and Mike on our social media page or on Instagram at Grumpy Nostalgia, and you can send us an email at nostalgiagrumps@gmail.com. For any of our listeners that are in the New York area, me and Mike will be traveling to New York to see. We'll be at Radio City Music Hall February 9th to see the Fellowship of the Ring at Radio City Music Hall. Any fans in that area, West 46th Street, if you want to come meet your heroes, you can send us an email. We'd love to meet you guys. But we'll be out and doing that over the next couple weeks. We're looking forward to that. So, Mike, that's going to wrap it up. Anything you want to wrap up before we leave?
No, I've got to go empty my thigh pads, if you know what I mean.
My name is a killing word, Mike. So for Mike James, this is Justin, and we will see you again next time.
Urine and feces are processed in the thigh pads.